We are going to be developing teacher guides and teacher resources. Um, and one of the things that we are thinking of as we develop these is the changing face of teaching. Um, there are already 5 states that are now majority minority, where people who used to be referred to as minorities are now compose the majority of the population of the state. 50 metropolitan areas in the United States. And that shift of a majority minority will only increase, I believe, in about 10 years. The state of Illinois, where I teach right now, will also become majority minority. Um, Along with that huge demographic shift of who is in the classrooms, there is a gigantic shift in student assessment. We have come to the end of the No Child Left Behind era, in which standardized tests were the gold standard, and that we tested every child, sometimes multiple times a year, in standardized testing. Um, Basically, that model has did not pan out. We threw everything we had at it. Uh, it was bipartisan. Republicans and Democrats tried to make the No Child Left Behind thing work, um, and um, and we've come to the conclusion it hasn't. And what's next? We don't know, other than the fact that what we put not just 20 years into, but really over 100 years of standardized testing has not panned out. Coupled with that, we see universities abandoning the SAT and the ACT, and maintaining that grades are better indicators of academic aptitude. And so the whole argument for standardized tests is it's getting you ready to take this SAT or the ACT is also coming to an end. Um, so it's classroom grades, and that's more authority on the teacher. That is really putting the power into the teacher's hands in a way that we haven't seen it. And then for teacher assessment, we have what's called the Danielson model that is now gaining national acceptance. Danielson model rates teachers on their ability to engage students in the, and they have rubrics and protocols for how students have actually connected to the content. So those are 3 big changes, but of course the biggest thing right now is that we are in the middle of a pandemic that has changed entire online teaching, and that one of the main challenges of online teaching is that it really only works if students are self-directed learners. There's no compulsory mandate that the students have to log in and be there. There's no, they have to be motivated to do this work. And that if you turn to the academic research, there are 3 questions that students ask themselves as to whether they're going to actually engage in academic work. And the number one question that a student asks, am I accepted in this classroom? Am I, as a person, seen by the teacher, and is there something in this classroom that actually reflects on who I am? And the second one is, am I interested in it? Is there anything in this that has any kind of connection to me, to my reality? And then the third is, can I do it? And that's much more of a pedagogical problem of, can you structure the lesson in a way that students can engage with it? And I want to go into depth with one work. This is a work by the artist Floyd Newsom. And I wonder how many of you out there knew or know who Floyd Newsom is. How many people might have already been teaching with Floyd Newsom. But he, in my mind, he is a great example of the kind of multicultural artist that Brandywine, over nearly 50 years, has quietly been cultivating, producing an archive of, and creating a story that isn't exactly outsiderish. Um, Floyd Newsom has been a professor at the University of Houston for 40 years. His paintings are included in the Smithsonian National Museum of African American History and Culture, the Philadelphia Museum of Art. He's not exactly what you would call an outsider artist. He's more of what I would refer to as a story that has not really uh, developed within the mainstream, and one that I think Brandywine excels at in terms of trying to bring to the fore. Um, Another aspect that Floyd has been involved with is he's a co-founder of the Project Row Houses in Houston. Project Row Houses is a mixed-use development of restored shotgun houses in the Third Ward area of Houston. It had included artist studios, focusing on artists who wanted to explore African American themes. Mixed with that was affordable housing for under-resourced individuals with particular focus on support for single mothers. And this project has been supported by the MacArthur Foundation, the Menil Foundations, the National Endowment for the Arts, and it is and is an example of how Newsom and his collaborators have taken cultural history, cultural interest, and really tried to transform the neighborhoods in which they live and work. And that sense of trying to explore more than just an image, what the image might be, and the cultural context of it, that um, in developing the teacher guide around Floyd Newsom, we've also pulled in writings by other poets, in this case, the African American poet Nikki Giovanni, and then also um, thinking about in terms of how do you engage students, reaching out across popular culture. So an artist like Alicia Keys is also someone who, in our resource materials around trying to explore Floyd Newsom's work, is what we're doing. Fundamentally, though, um, we come back to that image, and that one of our basic pedagogical approaches um, with any image is not to start with a lot of content and a lot of backstory, but just simply, what do you see? What's in this image? And what makes you say that? And that in that sense, you're not asking a student, you're not putting them on the spot. Did you remember this historical content? Are you trying to show off previous knowledge? But you can actually just, what do you see? And tell me about what you see. And that from that beginning, um, I think, and if we had more time today to develop this, and this could be something that we would certainly do in future webinars, you could begin to unpack the kind of uh, cultural concern that Floyd Newsom has demonstrated. You can see Project Grow Houses, where that's coming from in an image like this. You can actually begin to really build out the kind of cultural keys and contexts that support this work. And the ability to do that visually, I think, is something that, particularly in our online teaching environments, uh, can be particularly powerful right now, and to entice students um, to get students excited, for them to feel engaged, for them to think that this imagery is about their world and what they know, and to really use that educationally uh, to teach in this new realm that we find ourselves.